Sheriff Sean Nordia, who features in our weekly Crime Watch segment, also felt the wrath of the social workers when his daughter was taken from him by police and social workers a few months ago. Check this out.
So 4 months ago, the Ministry of Gender Equality and Child Welfare rocked up at my doorstep on a Friday night whilst my daughter was about to go to sleep in her pajamas, showered and ready to go to sleep. And they took away my daughter by force with the Namibian police based on allegations. Her words to me, the social worker, was they got complaints. I had no choice but to comply, so we allowed my daughter to go. Then when I went to court, at the magistrate's court in Karatura, I found out what the allegations were. The allegations were that I was molesting my daughter and that I was neglecting my child and that she was begging at shops for money. And that I was putting her life in danger due to the fact that she does snake handling and that with me. We were accused of living on the streets. We weren't living on the streets. Took her out of her home in the warmth of her home and surroundings. Now the thing is that after several times going to the court, they postponed the case. The one day they actually brought her to court right in the beginning, and it caused trauma because my daughter saw me and we both thought she was coming home. In fact, they didn't. They just brought her to say, look, she's in good hands, don't worry. So that was a bit of traumatic, psychological and emotionally for us. So then what happened was, when they laid the allegations before me, I brought evidence to prove that it was otherwise. I proved my bank statements, I proved that I owned companies, I proved that I was a stable man, I proved that my daughter was a trained professional at catching snakes, worked with non-venomous snakes. I proved that, I said to them, where has my daughter ever have asked anybody for anything? Bring these accusers. The accusers never arrived at court, only written statements. Then came the molestation case. The doctor was called into the court and eventually they said yes, but her hemia was not intact. I said to them, my daughter is an extreme child. Although she's a princess, she does things like horse riding, riding motorcycles, riding bicycles, you know, and yeah, she's a young girl. She's 10 years old. So is it possible that this could have happened from one of these situations? The doctor confirmed that it was, they could not prove that I had violated or molested my daughter. So there was that serious allegation. But you must remember, this went social and on public media and stuff. So people were treating me like I'm some child molester. We had the final hearing for the disclosure of the case, and it was found that I'm competent, that I am able to look after, and that the allegations against me were not substantial, which means there was no evidence to prove that anything that was alleged was factual. So basically, my daughter and I suffered for 4 months due to something that was fabricated by people out to attack me personally and discredit me. But you know what's really bothering me? I work with street kids. I've got 15 street kids which I help out of my own pocket. I've taken them to pep stores, I've bought clothing for them, shoes for them, pants for them. I've tried to help them on the streets. Every time the police gets called in to handle them, I'm there. I'm there to help them. They trust me. We've built up a relationship. But yet, you don't see the Ministry of Gender Equality and Child Welfare going to assist these children who have no parents, no fathers, no mothers, or they do, but they don't care. So when I went to go and fetch my daughter at Huis Marua, which is in a luxury area with beautiful accommodation and facilities and stuff, she didn't have one bag of clothing that I gave her. She had bags of clothing. Clothing that she got donated, sponsored, whatever. But she had new clothing, she had toys, she was being spoiled, rotten. And what concerned me was the fact that it was only Caucasian children there, white people. Now, I'm sorry, we live in a new independent Namibia. The ministry had handled this case and the ministry had placed my daughter in this home. Now, if the ministry is giving my daughter this beautiful accommodation and stuff, why aren't they doing it for the children on the streets? Why are the white people getting treated differently to other colored children. This is really concerning, and I'm saying this as a Caucasian man myself. I should feel privileged and feel good, but I don't. I'm worried about it. I'm troubled by it. I'm working with these street kids that are out on the streets. My heart bleeds for them. My daughter has a great heart for these children, and she herself says it's unfair.
Yo, so white privilege extends itself to the welfare system. I had to know why.
Huismarua has been founded more or less 1996. That was a direct response when the social workers of the then church-based Church Benevolence Services in Namibia that belonged to the Dutch Reformed Church didn't have the room to place children in need of care at the children's homes of the state. There was just not placed continuously. And as it's quite important that children who have been removed from their parents, especially having been abused or neglected and having gone through the children's court processes, that they be placed in an environment that's conducive to their return to their parents' care. So that is more or less the more immediate background. The former background is actually long before independence, long before your time and slightly before my time. There was what I called the Suidwes Kinderoord. Now Suidwes was the old name for the country, and Kinderoord means children's oord, like a place for children. Now after independence, the church who developed that in partnership with government gave it back to government because the running cost was just impossible for the church to get to. And that was a rather big place. Now, if you think now of what used to be Suidwes Kinderoord and who is now the children's home in Hiludua Street, it's quite a big place. And the Dutch Reformed Church could in no way afford to all those running costs. So they founded a small house-based children's home, which is called Huismarua. The culture there is Afrikaans. So that will be the dominant language in the houses. The houses each has got a house parent, one or two. When it's a couple, it will be two. When it's a single person, it will be one. There's space for 6 to 8 children per house. They can start from baby time up to 18 years old. And the 18 years old is determined by when they leave school. Then they are relieved from the consequences of the Children's Act. Now, with the Dutch Reformed Church, it's mostly Afrikaans church. There's in 44 congregations, there's one ward that's English speaking. The rest are all Afrikaans. So there's nothing sinister about it. It's just that it's a facility that was created from within the church to make provision for its own members and the children within their own that is in need of care.
I asked the PS of Child Welfare, Valentia Uiras, why black children are housed in other accommodation, and she mailed me this response. According to the Convention on the Rights of the Child, the state has a responsibility to protect children. It is not recommended for facilities of this nature to be exposed to the public, as these facilities are purely for the protection of children. As a ministry, we do not discriminate against any group and have the obligation to protect the rights and best interest of any child. Thank you for watching. It's a wrap.